Collusion is one of the biggest problems in fantasy football. We'll tell you how to fix it next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. Locked On Dynasty is presented by Prize Picks. Just download the Prize Picks app, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're going through a litany of topics, including what's going to happen with DJ Moore in 2026. What is his dynasty value? We're going to talk about some fun dynasty and fantasy leagues that you should explore this offseason. But let's start with this, Fabs. One of the biggest problems that fantasy leagues have is collusion, and it can come in a lot of different forms and fashion. Matt and I actually talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I know you had a situation pop up in one of your leagues that you wanted to discuss. Then I wanted to get into a discussion on how to solve this problem.
Yeah, well, first off, as the commissioner, I mean, it's the most thankless job like on the planet, I think, right? I mean, at this point, and you have to be careful about suggesting to someone that they are colluding with another owner, because that could obviously create some internal strife. But there was a league that I'm in where the #1 seed was locked in. So they couldn't really improve in the final week of the regular season, but they were playing the 3 seed. And the 3 seed needed to win in order to keep the 3 seed, because the 4 seed with a win and a 3 seed loss would move up to the 3 seed. I know that's kind of convoluted and confusing, but I think you get my drift. The #1 seed had set a correct lineup every single week. And then in the regular season finale, he played Drake London, who was inactive, and Rico Dotto, who's on a bye. And so that automatically gave that opponent, the 3 seed, a way better chance at staying at the 3, which to me is Bush League. And his response to why did you not set a correct lineup was, well, I don't want to drop anyone on my bench for the playoffs. So I just had that lineup where I couldn't fill it. And I'm like, well, first off, he had Harold Fannin on his bench. He could have put Drake London on the bench, put Deebo Samuel in a wide receiver spot, and then flexed Harold Fannin. He also had 2 defenses. You don't need 2 defenses. So I think that's garbage. And
is there any chance? I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Do you think there is any chance that he just forgot to set a lineup this week?
So he forgot to set his lineup in that week, but didn't forget in the first 14 weeks, 13 weeks. I don't know, man.
I mean, again, I know it's as somebody who has like little kids running around the house, it's the holidays. I do want to give people the benefit of the doubt. But one of the next question I was going to ask you is, what could there have been any strategic element to not setting a complete lineup, because he thinks that the current 3 seed is a less of a threat than maybe the person that would be coming into that spot?
I think that's I don't like that. Like,
I agree with you. I'm just asking from
the Jets want the #1 pick in the draft. It doesn't mean that they're going to just throw all their 3rd string players out there in a game. Like they've won some games, and I like my fantasy football to be as close to real football as possible. I'm not throwing a game. And
well, I will say we have seen, again, I'm not trying to fight you on this. I'm asking questions. We've seen like the Chiefs last year. They played the Broncos in week 18. And yes, the Chiefs didn't have anything to play for, but they played nobody. And I think a big reason why is because they didn't want the Bengals in the playoffs. They wanted the Broncos instead of the Bengals. There is some strategy to it, but it doesn't sound maybe like that was the case here.
I just don't feel like it's fair to not set a lineup when you will affect someone else or multiple other teams in your league. I just don't think that's fair. There was another team that started Luther Burden and Troy Franklin when he had T. Higgins on the bench. Left T. Higgins on the bench. You don't leave T. Higgins on the bench when Joe Burrow's the quarterback and T. Higgins is active. And you certainly don't do it when Luther Burden, who I like, but is not even in the same stratosphere as Higgins from a fantasy perspective. And Troy Franklin has dropped to like the third wide receiver in Denver behind, of course, Cortland Sutton and Pat Bryant. You don't do that. So again, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So like, some people may argue, well, I'm going to do what's best for me, but what about doing what's best for the league and actually, ethically making a decision to fill out a complete lineup? Just to me, leaving players that aren't playing in your lineup because it doesn't matter to you is not the way that I play fantasy football. And I think people should be punished for that. So maybe you have to forfeit if you don't set a lineup that is complete. Maybe there is a monetary penalty that you have to pay if you decide, well, I'd rather play team X in the playoffs. And so if it works out that way with me throwing a week, then I'm going to do that. I just don't buy into that kind of thing. I don't think it's cool. You don't see that in high stakes leagues, and I don't think you should see it in any league.
A couple more things of collusion we want to talk about, and I want your thoughts. So Matt and I talked about in Dynasty leagues yesterday, if you are a team that did not make the postseason, what should be the rules when it comes to making trades? I'm going to give you the floor, and then I'll tell you kind of what we decided.
Well, so for me, Dynasty's different because say I don't make the playoffs. I'm not going to make the playoffs, but I trade one of my best players to a team that's in the playoffs for a number one pick or multiple draft picks or a younger player in draft picks. Like, yeah, I mean, that's fine with me because ultimately you're trying to make your team better for the future and the other team's trying to win a championship. So I don't have a problem with that. It's
now,
more
one of the suggestions that we made is if you're worried about this at all in your leagues, your fantasy leagues, your dynasty leagues, just make it where once the playoffs start, teams that are not in the playoffs can trade with each other, and teams in the playoffs can trade with each other.
But that way, no, there should be no trading during the playoffs. Like there should be a trade dedeadline.
Well,
just like dynasty leagues in a redraft, and then.
But we're talking dynasty leagues. In dynasty leagues,
no. Why would you not have a trade deadline in a dynasty league? Like,
there comes none of the leagues that I play and have a trade deadline during dynasty leagues because you keep it open all year long to make moves. Because like a good example is, what if you want to go trade for somebody right now who you think is going to start to break out over the final 4 games of the season, and you want him on your roster before the offseason starts? I'm okay making moves.
Why would you allow people to make trades during the playoffs? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Again, I want my fantasy football to be like the real football. In the real NFL, there's a trade deadline. You can make trades after that, and that's how it should be in fantasy as well. I can make a trade before my championship with a team. No.
Well, we said this is where we came back to only with the other playoff teams.
No, you shouldn't be able to make a trade at all. There's no more trades.
I disagree with that. That's okay.
Trades are done. But what's the benefit of that? Trades are over. There's a deadline. And then the new league year starts the following year, and then you can make your moves. Why are you making trades in the playoffs in fantasy? It makes no sense to me at all.
I think it's because dynasty players like to trade, and you can always be trying to upgrade your team.
To trade, Marcus.
Well, my thing is that if I'm a losing team, like if I'm not in the playoffs, I might want to try to trade. Like I might want to go out and try to get Luther Burden before I think he has a big, final month of the season, and then the price is unattainable. So I think it is okay to have it open, but I do think there should be some restrictions here.
But why restrict teams? Like if every team is equal because it's dynasty, why restrict teams that didn't make the playoffs from making a trade and only allow teams that are in the playoffs to make it?
No, I'm saying what we're saying is only if let's say you didn't make the playoffs, you can only trade with teams who also.
Yeah, but why? Like you're restricting those teams.
Well, because I think you would avoid the situations of, you know what, I think McCaffrey's going to retire after this year. I'm just going to send McCaffrey to the number 1 team for a 4th round pick.
Okay, you know how you eliminate that from happening? You have a trade deadline, and you can't make trades after week 13 or 14.
I know, but trades are fun. I like having it open all year long.
I mean, like once you get. In what sport can you make a trade during the playoffs, Marcus? And I know it's fantasy versus reality, but like I want my fantasy to be like reality. Like give me a sport where you can make a trade in the second round of the playoffs. You can't. It's just I don't like that. That I would never do that. I wouldn't be in a dynasty league that allowed that. I just wouldn't do it.
We'll get you in one. It's a lot of fun.
No,
I'm in a dynasty league that had like
you want
250
deadline, and that's it. That's all. You're done. I can't. No, I will never get behind that. I will never get behind that. Once you're done, that's what trade deadlines are so much fun, man. And then, like you said, first off, if somebody tries to trade Christian McCaffrey for a 4th round pick because they think he's retiring, for number one, the commissioner should get involved in that.
But see, I don't like that.
There should never be a situation like that.
I don't like commissioners getting involved in trades because who knows how that trade might turn out, right? Like
no. The commissioner gets involved insofar as I'm gonna have a league vote and see if the trade is so like ass backwards unfair, I'm gonna let the league vote on it. Because if I see it as unfair, I don't like when trades are vetoed. I don't like it at all. But if there are enough people who are like, that trade is a bunch of you know what, I'm going to let my league mates vote on it. I mean, that's just me because it's a democracy in that point.
But I also think there's value in, okay, let's say you had Daniel Jones in your dynasty league. You were one of the top seeds. You should be able to make some kind of move to protect yourself. And maybe you're giving up an asset that's more valuable in 2026 just to get a mediocre quarterback this year to help you compete. That would allow you to allow both managers to benefit.
It would be nice for the Colts to be able to make a trade and not have to sign a 44-year-old quarterback. But that's against the rules because it just doesn't happen. You're too far into the season. That's just me.
Right. All right, let's talk about a new way to play fantasy football, a Apex fantasy league and dynasty leagues that have become very, very popular. We will get to that next. This episode is presented by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes, and it's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every single day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, it's fast, and it's available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. You already live fantasy football every single day, but why don't you take it up to another level and go ad-free? Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Dynasty Football with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Just go to lockedondynasty.supercast.com or check out the link in the show notes. All right, now that you got me all fired up, Fabs, let's talk about something different. Apex-style fantasy football, which we have some different versions of this, but if you're not familiar, Fabs, why don't you go ahead and explain what it is?
So basically, it's a league that tries to eliminate luck, right? So you play 2 games a week, not 1 game a week. So you play head-to-head versus an opponent, but then you also play against the entire league in terms of the league average score. And so what that's supposed to do is make the standings reflect like actual like good performances. I'm going to always use PPR. You can do this for redraft. You can do it Dynasty. You can do best ball. And to me, it rewards like consistently high scores over schedule and luck. Like, so I complain about this all the time. And it's at this time of the year that I complain about it. In one of my leagues, I was all but in. And I had Jalen Hurts, who's a bum, and I'm not a big fan of him anymore. Not that I ever really was, because I'm a Cowboys fan. But that last interception that he threw, I got knocked out of my playoffs, the 6th seed, by 0.8 of a point. Now, I had 1,850 points scored against me. Nobody else in the league had more than 1,725. And I had the 4th most points scored in that league. And I didn't make the playoffs, which to me is a whole bunch of hogwash. And so an Apex league is going to, I would have made the playoffs in that league. There's no doubt about it because of all the points that I scored. So it eliminates some of the luck. And that's the biggest part of fantasy football that is a problem, is that you run it like I just had bad luck. Literally every single week, the team that I played had their best week. It was driving me nuts. Like the guys in the league were laughing about it. Okay, like it was like this was a league with a bunch of my buddies from WWE, so they're all ribbing me, and I should have made the playoffs, but I didn't. And now, Fab sour grapes, a little bit, you know what I mean? But still, I had bad luck. So Apex tries to reward consistency and reward teams that score a lot of points, but might play a team that also had its best week of the season.
I thought you liked having it mirror. I thought you like having fantasy football mirror regular football. They don't do this in regular football.
It does, but you can't play defense in fantasy football. I can't play defense.
I'm just joking with you.
No. Listen, I'm saying, but you can't play defense in fantasy football.
So I'm in agreement here. So one of the things that our leagues have done is, let's say it's 6 playoff teams, right? It's your top 4 record wise, and then the next 2 spots are your highest scoring non-playoff teams. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, that does a really good job of getting the actual 6 best teams in your fantasy league. So there have been a lot of different versions of this, but I think this is something that I would highly recommend, because you do want to reward the teams that are setting lineups and trying to improve their rosters all year long, even if they're 3-5 to start the season. Like you want your entire league setting your lineups every single week, and having a points-based spot or 2 in your playoffs will help that.
Let me ask you a question, and I want to get your opinion on this thing here. In one of my leagues, in the Sports Illustrated Experts League, and I strongly am considering doing this in every league next year moving forward, the number 1 seed is the best record. The number 2 seed has the most points. The number 3 seed has the next best record. The number 4 seed has the next most points. 5 seed record, 6 seed points. So 3 of the teams get rewarded a playoff spot because of their record, and 3 because of their points. Now, a lot of time there's going to be overlap there, right? I mean, so like, some of the teams with the best records are going to have the highest point totals as well, but that allows 3 spots to go to the playoffs based on points. So you could be the 7, 8, or 9 seed, and because you've had bad luck, because teams have outscored you, because as I mentioned, that kind of happens, even if you've scored like a ton of points, you're still in. You could still be as high as the 2, the 4, or the 6 seed. And so does 100%. That make more sense than going top 5 in 6th based on points, or top 4 in 5 and 6 based on points?
Maybe. I think it depends a little bit on what the playoff structure is, right? Like if
first the 2 teams get a bye and then it's head to head.
So it depends. I think in that situation, I would still want the top 2 seeds to be based on record, but I could also see it the other way, where you give the 2 seed to the team that scored the most points outside of, the number 1 seed or whatever. One of the things that we've done is, instead of giving bye weeks, is that we've allowed the number 1 and number 2 seeds to pick their opponents in the playoffs. And that just adds another layer of strategy, and it can create some really good rivalries, right? Like, hey, this guy thinks my team stinks. That's why he picked me first. I'm all for trying to make it even more fun and more trash talking in your leagues.
What do you feel like ultimately is the goal in fantasy football? So
it's to win.
No, I get it. But what is the path to getting there? So
it's to have the top seed, right? And I do think there should be a reward for getting the number 1
But here's the thing. What's more important, Marcus? And what is a better reflection of how good or bad a team is? Record or points scored? It's points scored. It's 100% points scored.
Yes, but I do think there are some situations where you have these really big spike weeks and then some other weeks that aren't so good. I do value the consistency, but again, I'm in total agreement. Like, you should have at least 1 spot where it's based on points and not record, at least.
But again, and I'll give you another example. I am now in the playoffs in 2 high stakes leagues. Okay. I'm not playing anybody anymore. There's no head to head. There's 6 teams in the playoffs, and it's now all based on points. So the team that scores the most points over the next 3 weeks is the champion. Why? Record is a flawed stat in fantasy football. And you could argue it can be a flawed stat in real sports too. I mean, there's teams that, you remember the Saints last year, right? That like started off really well. Was it last year? I think. I remember they slaughtered the Cowboys
killed
in that
Dallas
game.
in week 2. Yeah.
And but they weren't playing good teams.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they injuries happen and they started playing better teams and things went sideways. So it can happen in real sports too. But ultimately in fantasy football, it's points and standings based on record. Again, not 100% flawed because if you're scoring a lot of points, you're probably going to have a good record. But scoring points is what we're looking for. When I do start them and sit them every week, and when I do waiver wire every week, and when I tell you guys to sit Patrick Mahomes like I told you last week or Justin Jefferson, it's because I didn't think they were going to score enough points. And so everything is based on scoring points or avoiding players who aren't scoring points. And so even if it is, like you said, 4 standing 2 points, 5 standing 1 point, or alternating record and points for playoff seeding, you've got to put that in there. Any league that just goes based off of the top 6 records for the seedings in the playoffs is flawed. 100% flawed. Let's eliminate luck. There's a way to do it, and those who don't do it, they should be.
All right, let's talk about DJ Moore. We're going to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about his dynasty value going forward because it sure seems like he isn't going to be in Chicago next year. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Car Gurus. Car shopping should feel exciting and not confusing and stressful. But with Car Gurus, you get the confidence that you deserve. They cut through all of the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars that you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes the whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else so you can shop the way that you want to shop. Use Car Gurus deal ratings to quickly compare cars without having to guess whether the price is fair or not. You're going to love being able to filter by everything, including mileage, trim, features, so that you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need. Plus, their price drop alerts are a lifesaver. You'll get notified the second a car you're looking for becomes available with a better deal. Car Gurus connects you with a trusted dealership Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way that you want with tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car at cargurus.com. That is cargurus.com, cargurus.com. This episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. Guys, it's 2025. It's almost 2026. And those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. They're done with. No more walking it off or for 6 months or pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just because you slept wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and ZocDoc makes it easier than ever before because staying healthy is more than just hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Using ZocDoc makes scheduling easier. You can search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits, and there's no more back and forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care that you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, I want to close the show with a question about DJ Moore. We had a question here from Hank. He wants to know what is DJ Moore's dynasty value, and what does his long-term outlook look like?
Well, he has been one of the biggest duds this year because, last year he wasn't elite, but he averaged 14 points a game. And the problem now with DJ Moore is that he's not even the third option in the offense. Luther Burden was the number one option last week with Roma Dunze out. The Bears have a Dunze, they have Burden, who you love. They have Colston Loveland. And so DJ Moore's best bet to have any dynasty or fantasy value next season in terms of an increase is to go someplace else. The first thing we think of Buffalo all the time, right? But his points per game average has dropped in 3 straight years. He averaged 17 points per game 3 years ago, and that was with, you remember, Justin Fields. And then the year after, last year, he averaged about 14 points a game. Now he's at 9, right around 9.4 points per game. And I don't think that this is this is any kind of like, well, DJ Moore is just not the same player anymore. He's not as good as he used to be. I mean, this is a guy who's got 5 1,000-yard seasons on his resume, and I still think he can be a viable wide receiver 3 flex type in Dynasty and fantasy. He needs to get out of Chicago. And I think that's the only way he's going to have some of that value, because next year they are going to use Luther Burden more. They are going to have Rome Odunze as their alpha. They are going to use Colston Loveland more. And so he's got to be on the move. He's got to go somewhere where he can be utilized as an alpha, or at least 1B to a 1A in a passing game. Right now, it is, and I actually started him last week because Odunze was out, and I was thinking, all right, well, I don't love the matchup, but at least maybe I'll get some volume for targets. You got Bupkis. So that really shows you, not only are the Bears leaning on the run more because they got this kid, Kyle Monin guy, who's a stud and is going to be a breakout fantasy player next year, but they also have these younger players that they want to incorporate into the offense. Even with Odunze out, DJ Moore did not see an increase in terms of his targets.
I find DJ Moore fascinating because next offseason, he'll be 29. He'll be going into his 9th year. I mean, this is when typically receivers start to fall off. But to me, he's in like this Brandon Cooks range where, remember when Brandon Cooks was getting traded every single offseason? And it was because he was being paid like a low-end wide receiver 1, but you didn't really want him to be your wide receiver 1. You wanted him to be like your wide receiver 2. And I think DJ Moore is there. He's being paid as the 13th highest paid receiver in the league. And I love DJ Moore, but he's just not that guy anymore. But you look at his cap hit, you kind of need him to be like a super high-end wide receiver too. And I look at Chicago's cap situation, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but Chicago has $1 million of cap space in 2026. If they trade DJ Moore, they can free up $16.5 million. The number is, it's high for DJ Moore, but I do think there's going to be teams out there that would love to add a receiver like him. So I think he gets traded. It's just what teams would go after him, or which teams would go after him. And can he land in a situation where he's locked into 120, 130 targets? I don't know. I don't know if he can be that guy anymore.
Yeah, again, I think he can still be a viable flex starter. Like I said, wide receiver 3 type. His best seasons are clearly in the rearview mirror, but also there are some teams that he could get traded to, or if the Bears decide to let him run and become a free agent, that he could see his value improve. I mean, there's no question about that. So that's going to be one. And the free agent crop at wide receiver, Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not like great.
No, and
it's not great. So he could be pretty valuable on the open market or on the trade market.
So the top receiver is George Pickens, but we all know that he's going to get franchised, or he's going to sign a long-term deal. Alec Pierce. So I'm looking at the teams that have the most cap space, because I think that's the most likely path here, is that a team like Tennessee, who has $109 million of cap space, they flip a early day 3 pick to Chicago for DJ Moore. The Bears get all this cap space, and the Titans get a receiver. Do we feel great if DJ Moore's in Tennessee?
No, but he will be drafted as a wide receiver 3, flex and fantasy.
The Raiders have $106 million in cap space. Do you feel great if he goes to the Raiders?
I don't want anybody to go to Raiders. I don't want change that. Something's got to change there, man.
I'm just reading down on the teams that have the cap space.
I get it. I know. But I mean, the quarterback situation is they don't have one.
How about the Commanders that go back to Maryland, where DJ Moore went to college?
Too many mouths to feed there. I mean, Terry McLaurin just got paid. They've got Deebo Samuel. Too many mouths to feed there.
I'm with you. So you start going down the list, and like I look at a team like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh desperately needs a number.
I think that could be a good spot.
Yes,
but I don't know who their quarterback is.
And you're going to be competing with DK Metcalf and an Arthur Smith offense that just doesn't feed targets to a receiver.
Do you think DJ Moore is going to be an alpha anywhere? Like, are there teams where he can be an alpha? I mean, Buffalo comes to mind again. Top of mind, Buffalo wide receiver needs. Like, he could be their one. But there's not a lot of teams out there that you could say off the top of your head, would he be the one in Las Vegas? Well, number 1 wide receiver, yeah, but Brock Bowers is the one there.
Right. I think this is the whole point is I'm not super excited about his long-term outlook. Like, I think we're just in the stage of his career where he's probably going to bounce around to a couple different teams, and maybe, he gets into the right situation and hits gold. I just don't see it happening.
And the problem is the time period to try and sell high on him is long gone.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Did Locked On Dynasty make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it to us on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. And make sure you check out the Locked On NFL podcast as well. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow.